What is going on, everybody? Caden, how are you doing today, brother?
Doing well, doing well. How you doing?
Man, we're doing good. We're going to dive right into this deal. If you guys are watching this, if you haven't been seeing me and Caden talk about this deal that he has here in Salt Lake City, Utah, we're going to dive into how he's going to find a buyer the painless way, the transparent way. Let's dive right into it, man. Before we get into showing the process, because right now anybody that's watching is going to see exactly how you find a buyer, the fastest, the most efficient, quickest way. Let's tell them about the scenario, what's going on. Let's start from the beginning. Tell us what's up. You knocked
Right
on
from the
a door
beginning.
of a pre-foreclosure lead. Yeah, kind of
Yeah.
explain what's going on.
Yeah, so I knocked on their door, had a short conversation with the owner's son. He's living there with his mom. His mom is like 75 years old. She's the owner of the house. Found out that her husband recently passed about 2 years ago or so. Ever since then, they've been overdue on the payments. So they're like 22 months overdue. And I found out that they'd been working with somebody else, another wholesaler, that already made him an offer. And so they made him an offer. I told them, hey, I might be able to get you some more money here. And so they're hearing me out. They're willing to hear my offer. I went over to the house, had a sit down with them a few days later after I initially met him, and kind of got an understanding of their situation, and basically told them, hey, why don't we get our cash buyers in the door? Sounds like you got a decent offer. It's similar to maybe what I would do. They're offering 330. The house is probably worth 450, 475, somewhere in that ballpark. And I said, hey, let's get our cash buyers in the door, see what people are really willing to buy, really willing to pay for your house, and see what they have to say and go from there. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
All right, so let's break it down. I love it. Great explanation. So this is what happens, guys. You have other cash buyers that make offers. The seller is not ready to sign yet. They're hesitant, right? Obviously, I don't like making offers until I know they're ready to make a decision, right? Because then you kind of lose all your leverage. So what Caden, he went in there. He knew that there was an offer at the table at 330. Okay, we ran the numbers. 330 doesn't really make sense on the traditional 70% formula, which I don't really even use, but it just really doesn't look like that good of a deal. So the only way for Caden to get in there and win the deal without doing the strategy I'm about to show you guys is to essentially just lie or just say, hey, like, let me just tell you I can pay more than 330 to get the contract when me and you both don't feel that confident about it, right? But we know in our market in Utah, there's some crazy buyers out there. There's some buyers that are kind of might be willing to pay a little bit more, but we're not sure. But we don't want to put our name on that piece of paper and say, yes, we can pay more, have them in pre-foreclosure kind of feeling like they can depend on our offer when we're not sure. That happens a lot, right? Competition's involved. Now we don't know if these cash buyers, these other wholesalers or whoever they're talking to, if they can really do 330. It doesn't look like the numbers line up, but this is basically what we say in this scenario. So if everybody's watching, this is kind of how it's gone down and what we're doing at this point. So they have an offer on the table at 330. Don't know if it's legit or not, right? And we know that if we were to get this deal and it'd be like 100% a home run and it makes sense where we're like feel super confident that if we can't find a buyer, we can take it down ourselves and flip it or wholesale it, we would need to be around like 300. That's probably, it's about 30K off. But I believe that there has to be some cash buyers out there that would see things differently than me. Maybe they buy a little bit at a bit, not as deep of a discount, right? Because they're looking to flip it themselves, live in the property. I have some cash buyers that might be able to, clean it up and sell it to a family that's willing to, like, there's so many different options, right? So what we tell the seller is we say, hey, and I'm just kind of reiterating, right? I'm just going back and letting people know how this scenario happens all the time. So we're going to say, hey, I understand that there's an offer at 330. I would be around that. I'm not telling them exactly my offer, right? Because you don't want to just say, hey, this is where I'd be, take it or leave it. We'll just tell her, hey, if I were to buy that right now and give you a solid offer, I'd be around that offer. I would be around where the other people have offered. But I have a couple of cash buyers that I know in my network that I believe would potentially be able to pay a little bit more than them. But if you give me the opportunity, I can run this by them and see, if I can, if they'd be willing to pay a little bit more, and I can partner with them to buy the house and flip it with them right? AKA wholesale it, right? Um, and basically you give the seller the opportunity, depending on how their time, like their time frame, right? You don't want to run this scenario if they're like, hey, I'm making a decision tomorrow, unless you can just call one of your cash buyers like immediately and they just give you some feedback. Again, why are we doing this? Because we don't want to tell her we can pay 335, not know, and lock her up and waste her time, our time. And so we're just transparently telling her, hey, look, we have some people that might be able to pay a little more. I just need to do some due diligence. And then you're setting the right expectations. Does that right, Caden? Like, would you
Right.
agree we're setting the right expectations
Yeah.
here?
We're just being
Um,
transparent with them.
yeah. And I call it painless flipping. You can call it transparent wholesaling. It's whatever. So Caden said, hey, in order for me to run this by my cash buyers and wholesale it to them, we just don't use wholesaling because they don't know what that means. You say, in order for me to run this by my cash buyers, I'd like to sign an agreement with you just to allow me to do it so we're all on the same page. Now, what she said is, oh, you know what? Like last time, I'm really hesitant to sign, even with them, with you, because what happened? Didn't she get strung along by a buyer last time and he kind of screwed
Yeah.
her over?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Had kind of a
So
crappy experience, and so she's real hesitant to work with investors again.
totally get it. And what did you say to her? You're like, hey, I totally get it. So what
Right.
we're doing at this point, this is up to your discretion, anyone's discretion that does this. It's up to you if you want to do this, because it could be a waste of your time. They could sign, if you do what I'm about to tell you, and they could just sign the next day with the other buyer or make a decision, and you could have wasted some time. But if you see the situation, which the situation is, hey, you've built rapport, you know they're going to have to sell to a cash buyer, I think it's worth it. So what we say is, hey, look, totally get it. We could sign a real estate purchase contract and you give me some due diligence. We could sign an offer to purchase agreement. But if you give me your verbal, I can just run this by a couple of the cash buyers I know, no problem. Right? Because we're not going to blast this deal out to 1,000 cash buyers, 5,000. We're just going to reach out to a couple of cash buyers we know and use a process I'm going to show you right now to reach out to a couple of people to get some feedback to where they would be. Now, if we reach out to like 5, 10 cash buyers that we know, and the process I'm about to show you some batch leads and some other Facebook strategies, and everyone's like at 300, 250, like super, super low compared to where this the other cash buyers offer are. This is what we're gonna do. Okay. So I'm gonna answer, because before we got on this call, you asked the question. Do you want to answer the question again so everyone knows?
Yeah. My question was, what if the cash buyers come back and they're like, I'm not going to pay 330 or anything above that. We're going to be around 300, 275, something like that. I'm like, so in that scenario, what do we do? Because they're not going to take that offer. They don't even like the 330 offer. They're like, I need money to live as soon as I get out of this house, and that doesn't leave them with a whole lot.
Perfect. Okay. So this is what we do in this scenario. We use the data, the information that we get from our cash buyers to negotiate, right? Because now we feel confident. Because at the moment, you don't feel very confident saying, hey, I can give you more than 330, right? You're not sure. So once we get our cash buyers that we like, that we know and we trust, after we filter them, we send them through the property and we just say, hey, kind of let me know where you'd want to buy this property with me so we can get this done. And let's say they all come in at 290, 300, 310. We would go back to her and we'd say, by the end of the time we agreed to check this out with our cash buyers, we'd say, hey, look, you know what? I've been doing this for a really long time, and my cash buyers that I flip properties with and I assign my contracts to, whatever you want to say, they're in this range. They're in 290 between 290 and 310. That's where they're at. Now, we want to buy this house, but I know you have that other offer, 330. I don't really think that's a legit offer. I don't think that's real. I don't know how you feel about that, but you could potentially sign with them. They could lock you up, and they could potentially just try to back out and waste your time. I don't want that to happen to you. So I'm just letting you know from what I've seen. I've been in the game for, in the industry for a while, that this is what the data is saying, right? This is what the market's saying for us to go ahead and buy your house. And you let them decide, right? Because you can't force them to do anything, right? So if it comes back and it's way lower, I'm okay with that. I'm glad I did not lock her up at 335 just to find out this information, right?
Right.
And to proceed. Now, I will also say this. Look, even if they come back at 330 or they try to beat you up and get you at 315, that's not getting you the price you want. There's other options that we can explore to get you more money. I know when we first originally talked, you weren't really open to creative financing. But now that you know that most of the cash offers that, I'm going to be able to, go through and buy your house with, uh, are really low, I think we should seriously consider exploring creative financing, right? Because that will get you more money. And then what you can do is, as you talk to your cash buyers, you could say, hey, we want to get them a little bit more money. Would you be willing to, increase your offer if, we did creative financing? We try to get bigger offers. We go the novation route. We also tell her, say, hey, look, I know when we first started, you didn't really want to list this thing, but I can take care of the whole process, and I think it will get you more. I know it will get you more money because when we sell this to a traditional buyer, it's gonna make you more money. I'm trying to help you get as much money as possible. I want this to be a win-win scenario. So it gives you leverage to push other uh, exit strategies versus just like you're just sticking with when you make the initial cash offer, you're just kind of sticking with that. Now you're like,
Yeah.
hey, this is not going to work for her. We need to just let her know like this is the best route going forward because
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
For sure. For sure.
And
Yeah.
and the best part about it is you feel good about it. You feel good because you didn't waste your time. And this is the problem, like especially if they have like what's the word? Um, an auction date in like 2 weeks. She doesn't really know, right? She's trying to figure all that out. But if she has an auction date in like 2 weeks, you don't want to like lock her up and tell her you can do 335 or whatever just to see. And then she's kind of as square, what is the word, square zero route, like ground zero, whatever.
Yeah.
um After you cancel, like we're trying to avoid that, especially in the situations that require this much speed. So I know this might be kind of confusing for a lot of people that are just hopping in, but what we're about to do is we're at this process right now where she's like, hey, yeah, I don't care if you send some of your cash buyers in to let me know what you can really pay. That's where we're at right now. So, Caden, you've been hearing me yap. You're on the other side. Did I miss anything? Or is it a little confusing?
You
Or
nailed
are
it.
we
You nailed it.
are we good?
It's perfect.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
this is making sense for you and hopefully for everybody else.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Any questions before we move on to? All right, it's time to find some cash buyers.
I don't think so. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what they say. If the offers come lower than their current offer, if the cash buyers come in and make lower offers, it'd be interesting to see what they say because they're acting like they have a lot of urgency. Obviously, everyone's going to in this situation, but um, at the end of the day, if they do have the time and can get more money, I think they probably would do everything they can to get the most money out of it because they they don't have any money to live unless they
Yeah,
get
we
enough
want to.
money out of this thing.
Yeah, we want to get them as much as we can, right? Well, it makes sense for us and the work we're doing. So, um, I will say this: like, if everyone's coming out like 250, 290, like super low, then you feel even though it's lower, you feel better that like, hey, I did this process for them because that 330, like they're just gonna waste her time and she doesn't have time to waste. So you could go in there and just be like, hey, look, it's up to you, but that 330 is not looking like it's a legit offer unless they have $20,000 of non-refundable earnest money, no due diligence, right? They're just going to do
Right.
the same thing that I just did if I just asked my cash buyers, right? We're not trying to like snake somebody or like be bad for the wholesaler, the cash buyer that's trying to buy, but we're just trying to save her time,
Right.
from getting locked up and wasting her time. So that's what I'm talking about, and it will give you the confidence to go in and have that conversation, and you'll be glad that you didn't lock her up higher just so you could run the scenario.
Yep.
Uh, so let me think if there's anything else. Now this is another benefit to doing it this way, the transparent way, the Payneless way, is you would go in and you would say, look, I know that you potentially want to go with these people at 330. I know you do. I can kind of just look at their contract to give you some advice on like how to make it stronger at least, or what you could ask them for. But if you are willing to go, with my offer, I know it's a little lower than theirs, but if you can go with 310 hypothetically, right? 310 where we have our fee included and they get 310, we'd say if you can do that, we have 20K of non-refundable earnest money or whatever we're able to get the buyer to pay, 0 days of due diligence, and we'll close tomorrow or we'll close in 2 days. So there it's like, okay, not like what they wanted. They're not super excited about it, but at least it's real. It's super real because we're ready to go versus
Mm-hmm.
the 330 is up in there. And this is how we win a lot of deals is we'll come in with a super aggressive earnest money deposits that are non-refundable with no days of due diligence. So like really if the cash buyers already saw the house, there's no reason for due diligence at all, right? They already saw it. So
They're either in or they're out.
they're either in or out, and you're giving them the juice. And if they don't accept it, be like, look, I don't blame you for not accepting it. I know you need as much money as possible. I'm an expert at this. These are the two other options that you should seriously consider. I know it's a little different for you, but this is what we can do as seller finance. This is what we can do for if we list this thing for you. Okay, so let's do it. That was a long explanation, but I think it was important for anybody that's watching this so we can know why we do this. And look, you wouldn't have to do any of this if she wanted 300,000 and 300,000's in the money. Then you say, yes, let's do it. I can help you out. But we're dealing with someone that went too high, and now we're trying to make it still work, right? They would have signed already if they wanted that 330 and they felt confident with it. But there's a reason why they're talking to you, and we're gonna make it work.
Yeah.
All right, ready to go find some cash buyers.
Let's do it.
Okay, so this is the painless way to get it done using batch leads. Obviously, there's a lot of different ways to do it, but let me show you guys. So her home is right here. That's where, like somewhere in this area. What I did is I just took the box feature and I just made a box around it. All you have to do is you got to go to on market, on batch, or if you're using Zillow or any of these other services, you just have to find out Zillow's not going to tell you unless you look at like all the pictures. That's why batch leads is dope, because what you can do is you just go to on market and then you just filter it for cash buyers. So what does that mean? That means that these are cash buyers that have purchased a property within the year and that have are now having it listed on market at this moment because they're trying to resell it. So all you have to do is look at the pictures of the properties and see if it looks like it was flipped. Okay. So that does not look like it's flipped. That doesn't look like it's been flipped. So we could scroll down and I can tell you, I've already looked at a couple of these. This one is for 460. You can see that it's been flipped and it's pending sale. Okay. So, there it is. It's just loading. My internet must be slow. Okay.
Not a
Come
bad
on.
comp right there.
Not a bad comp. Okay, so here, I guess the basement's kind of weak. They didn't flip that one unless you like yellow. But they did. You can see that they flipped this bathroom, the kitchen. It's okay. They didn't do like a full blown flip, as you can see. They just like put in some new railing, new floors, new windows, new lighting, and they looks like they painted it on the outside. Here's another one, 518. Okay, boom, boom, painted it. They did a full blown flip, and they're trying to get as much as they can out of it. Okay, they staged it and everything. Here's another. This is a smaller home, but it looks like they flipped it. Let's see. So why am I showing you these flips, bro? Is because these are immediate cash buyers, right? So all you have to do is I can't click on it because we're on YouTube and Batch Lead shows too much personal info, like good information that they'll flag the stream as like bullying because they're like, hey, you can't show that info. But anyway, if you click on here, it will show you the agent's information and the buyer's information, right? And you can skip trace it and you can call directly. Now, what I like to do is I like to call the real estate agent who's representing the flipper because they not only know who this buyer is because they're representing them, they might be the buyer or they might have more cash buyers that they know. And what I do is I tell the agent, I say, hey, agent, I have a property that I'm looking to wholesale or assign that's pretty close to the property that you're representing that's currently being flipped or for sale. And I was wondering if your buyer's looking for more properties. And then they say, yeah, sure. And then you're like, okay, cool. Well, if you bring your buyer to this deal, I'm willing to pay your commission. I'm willing to give you, like three. You don't have to negotiate it right there, but usually like, well, what's your fee? I'd be like, I can pay like 3K, or I can bring you some money. Now, Jerry Norton, he basically says that he gets them to bring their buyer and not pay him a commission, and then just he says, hey, you'll get your commission on the back end. However you want to work it, I usually find they're motivated to bring their cash buyer if they have an incentive to get paid, up front as well. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Yeah.
So do you see how we're just seeing a couple of these? Now you can see that we're seeing a couple of these flips, but you also, depending on how close you want to get to your property that you have, you would just zoom in and look more in depth there, right? Like you would just say, okay, this is
Right.
a property that's like right by mine. This might
Yep.
be someone that would be more interested in buying it because they're right there. Here's another flip. You see, there's
They
a
love
lot
to
of
go back
options
to the
here.
same neighborhoods, right?
Yeah, you can get as close as you want to the property. So that's one technique, right? One technique. Do you have any questions so far? It's very simple. You're just saying, okay,
Yep.
what are some cash buyers that bought a property around this area? And let me start calling the agents, and let me start calling the cash buyers. I prefer going to the agent. The agent's going to have more pull than you will in getting the cash buyer to answer, and they'll be like motivated to get that person to like accept and the offer.
Right.
That's why I like going through the agent, and basically they take care of everything for like $3,000, $2,000, whatever. Here's another one. This has been on the market for a long time. That's wild. That's hopefully that's not correct.
How many days? 500 some
520.
days.
Yeah, it says something like that. All right, so I'm gonna come back and we're gonna just make sure we're both on the same page. Do you feel like you know how to go ahead and do that filter? What doesn't matter. I like
For
Batch, but
sure.
you can use any software really just to be like, what cash buyers are around my flip. Cool.
Yep. Identify
All right.
recent flips, get a hold of the agent, have them get in touch with the cash buyer that did the flip, and they're motivated to help you figure it out because they're getting paid.
And explain the situation. You can explain the situation. Hey, I'm working with the seller right now. I currently do not have this under contract because we're negotiating back and forth. But I am reaching out to see if your cash buyers would potentially be interested in this property. And then from there we can sign the right paperwork to get it assigned to them. I like to be transparent about what's going on, right? So they don't go and start talking. And I vet people before I send them. I'm not going to send an agent who I feel is sketchy to this property. If they're like, oh wow, you don't have it under
Mm-hmm.
contract, I'd be like, well, hold on here. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't stop. But you just vibe it. You vibe
Yeah.
it, right? Okay. So that's one strategy. Batch is money for that. The next one is you should hopefully already have a couple cash buyers in your back pocket, like I do, that we reach out to. Now, when you're doing this, you want to set up like hopefully one time, maybe two or three times that you could tell the seller, hey, we're just going to have our cash buyers walk through at 12 o'clock on Saturday. Does that work for you? Or whatever when they're free. And that's when you would set it up. Okay.
Perfect.
You set the expectations. Hey, these are guys I've worked with before. Some of them I'm, newer to working with, but hey, if they try to talk to you about what's the situation going on, like just let them know that you're looking to sell the house, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's nothing crazy. And then you let people
Yep.
know before they go see it, hey, just call me after and let me know where you'd be, and then we can work something out. I also like to tell the cash buyers, like, hey, I'm working with the seller right now. We don't have a definite, price that they want, but we know that they want a little bit more than it's probably worth. But but we're gonna figure all that out. Okay. I just need to know where you're at and where you'd need to be so we can get this going like ASAP, right? Like you're ready to close on it and you feel confident with it. Okay.
Perfect.
Anything before we move on to the
Do
next
I
strategy?
do I need to attend that walkthrough?
No, you don't. At least I don't, because there's no reason. The only reason you would attend is if you're scared that like they'll talk to the seller and do all this stuff. But that's all taken care of when you set the expectations. Hey, this is the situation. Working with the seller in pre-foreclosure, she's going through a lot. This is what I just need you to
Right.
go and tell me what your cash offer would be so we can work together and get this done. And
Yeah.
you can throw the carrot out there. I do a lot of deals like this. And if you're cool with this process, then I got a lot more coming your way. I just need you to go there. Now, if
Right.
someone's like, no, I'll pay $350 right now. I don't even need to go see it. That usually doesn't happen because people want to see it. But you would say, hey, I already got some people that are going to go see it. If you're serious about that, we need to, if you're willing to put down like, your EMD and I can assign to you right now, we can go ahead and do that. Now, if that's the case, then just work with them, call her, say, hey, I'm ready to go. This is the terms. We can get it done. I
Yeah.
talked to somebody that I'm going to flip it with. This is the scenario.
Make sure I get a lot of EMD. Make sure he's committed.
That's it, right? Because you don't want to stop the whole process if they're just like, no, I can do it, and they're like kind of being fishy about not getting it, going through the whole process and signing the paperwork and everything. Okay. All right, this is the next process. All right, so let me go to my Facebook really quick. All right, hold on here. Is this helping, by the way, to understand the process? I'm showing it to you. Okay.
Good stuff.
All right. And before I go on and show you why we're doing this, this is a scenario where we would not blast this out to like my cash buyers list of like 30,000 people in Utah. Why? Because I don't really like that process. It's a lot of work, right? To like respond to all those people. And like we don't know who's shady on that list that would just like go directly to the house and be like, hey, I had this property sent to me. It's like, let's avoid that by just talking to people we know, talking to people who buy properties in the area, and doing this process I'm about to show you right here. There's no need to blast stuff out. It's in my opinion. Okay. All right. So let's show this. And by the way, a lot of people don't think the way I do. Maybe there's some people that are like, oh no, man, just lock that thing up and blast it out. I just don't like doing that. Yeah, especially unless it's a price that like I feel really confident with. All right, so here we go. So this is how you can use local Facebook groups to do this process. Utah real estate. You just type in your state or your city where you're at, and then real estate investors. Okay. So this has 1,100 people. I like a different group, real estate investors. I think I like this one. This one has 10,000. Okay. So what we do is there's a couple different ways to do it. You could say cash buyer. No, this is not one I really enjoy doing because these could be older and they're not specifically like people that are actively looking in this group. I want people that are active, that are taking action. So you could do this, but yeah, and it could be a specific, like a different area, right? If you're like, oh, okay, let me go here, and then people are like, oh, I'm buying. It's like, well, we don't know if they're like legit. We want people that are coming to us and we're not outreaching to them using a strategy. So what you would do is you would explain the scenario. Hey, I'm just not going to type it the full out, but I'm going to say what I type. Actually, this is the cool thing about Max. I just found out they got voice control, so I'll say what I would post. I'm working with a seller right now that is in pre-foreclosure and let's see. And I'm wholesaling her property. Period. Is anyone buying properties in the West Valley, West Jordan, and South Jordan areas that can close quickly so we can get this done ASAP? Period. Message me. Direct message me, and I'll explain the situation and how to get access to the property. Period. Okay.
That way,
now that's
you get people coming in. You can vet them. You're not just putting the address out there.
No, because, and by the way, that's not that smooth. I wouldn't say that exactly, right? That's just like an example. But I post that, and I do that because I want to vet who goes there. Because I've been doing this for long enough where I can basically tell if someone's legit or not. So I do this, vet them, and then I'd send them to the 12 o'clock, the 1 o'clock, or whatever. After I fill it out. Now, because I don't want wholesalers getting a hold of this and blasting out to their people unless I want them to do that, but I don't. So I want cash buyers to go through. A lot of the people in these groups are wholesalers. So, and if you can vibe, if you can smell it, just call them out. Be like, hey, man, like, I don't mind it. Like, if you want to do that, that's not what I'm looking for, but I can use you in the future. I'm looking just for straight cash buyers. Oh, okay, I totally get it. Yeah, so and you're gonna have a lot of wholesalers that lie about it too. They're gonna be like, oh no, I'm a cash buyer. Anyway,
Yeah, I'm an end
that's
buyer.
why I'm an end buyer. Like, sure you are. So yeah, I just don't, because you don't know what they're gonna do with the deal. What if they're gonna blow it up? So avoid that if you can.
Right.
So we do this. So we do the batch leads strategy, like the painless flipping strategy in that sense. You reach out to a couple cash buyers, and this all depends on the time you have, right? Like if you do a Facebook group, if you do like if you have an active Facebook group community, like within a day or two, you should have like 10 people that are interested. Why? Because you didn't say the price, you didn't say anything other than like, hey, I got a motivated house that's for sale, right? Like, is anyone interested? Bam, right?
Hmm.
Um, that's what we're looking to do. Now you could give more information, be like, hey, I got a 3-2, blah, blah, blah. You want it to be vague though, because you don't want it to be like, hey, I got a pre-foreclosure lead on this street or this area, and then they could start looking at their pre-foreclosure list and getting froggy with you on it. So it's totally just vague. Hey, I got a property in the West Valley, West Jordan area. You don't even have to say it's in pre-foreclosure. Actually, because the list is so small, I wouldn't say it's in pre-foreclosure. Uh, and and if we had this under contract, I probably would be a little bit less lenient, right? But I don't think that's the right word, not less lenient, but I wouldn't be as hesitant, right? So you would just say, hey, I have a property, seller's super motivated and needs to sell ASAP, and just looking to see who buys fix and flips in this area. I think, just need some people to walk through it and tell me where they'd be. We'll get a lot of interest, right?
Right. Perfect.
There you go, bro. Now, if you go through the batch leads strategy I just showed you, who we already know, title companies is another good one, which that takes a little bit of time because you got to call the title company. You got to be like, hey, I got a property here. Who do you know? And sometimes they'll give you their best buyers, and sometimes they won't at investor friendly title companies. And then you have the Facebook strategy. You do those, you're good. Now, a lot of people could see this and be like, this strategy looks like it could take a lot of time. Like, why don't I just blast it out? Again, the blast out strategy I don't like. It costs money because you got to send out emails, you got to respond to all those people, which you got to do anyway, I guess, when you do this strategy. But the vetting for me is it's just easier to find out who's active, and you can build good relationships with people as you do this strategy. Like
Right.
you're gonna find cash buyers you can use later too.
Right. Right.
So
So with
that's it.
the Facebook strategy, am I just going to every group that I can find and just doing the same thing, all these
So
different groups?
let's take a look at this so I can kind of give you it depends. I would say if you want. Like I guess you will see how fast they react. Or there's going to be some dead Facebook groups that they're not going to respond. But this one's pretty. I've done this many times, so I know that they're pretty quick to the draw. Utah real estate, and then you just go investors, and then you're going to find. So in Utah, you're going to find out. You're going to find quite a few like real estate investors plugged. Utah, 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 Utah. So you can do all of them. It doesn't hurt, but I just know because I've done this a lot in Utah. Like you do it in like this group and this one, or I can't remember exactly which one. I have to click on it, but you get enough. You get enough.
So do you prefer sending out your own message to a specific group in real time, or do you like searching for old posts of people doing the same thing, being like, hey, who are the cash buyers in this area, and going that route?
I like to do my own post mainly because you get people coming to you versus you're outbound reaching out to someone
Mm,
that is posted.
right.
The way to get deals sold, in my opinion, is get people coming to you. I know we're doing a little bit of outreach with the agent, and this is just a post, but like that's what you want. And I get why people do the email blast, but again, I don't like giving all that. I guess you could do an email blast to your cash buyers list with just the vague information to get people responding. You could do that, but I just like doing this strategy because it's very fast. Like you get enough feedback quickly, and then you just DM them until you hop on a call, and then you give them the time. Now, eventually, if you get a lot of interest, you could just, when you're talking to people that respond, just be like, hey, check it out, this is the house. Don't, and give them the situation quickly. It really just depends.
Yeah.
That's the interesting thing about like dispelling properties and doing the strategies. Like it all depends. Like you're going to do a ton of work on something that no one's interested in, right? Like if you have if you're like, hey, I have a property in Price, Utah, you're not going to get a lot of love. It's out there. It's out there. But here in West Valley, West Jordan, like, yeah, people are going to be really interested because that's an area where they know they can flip properties and do, sell them quickly after they've been flipped. So,
Yeah.
yeah, man.
I think you're right. I
Trying to
think it's
think
a
if there's
fast
anything else.
way. I think it's a fast way to really pinpoint the buyers that are going to want to be in your location, and people that have already done work there.
Exactly. Yeah. So this process should take you 2 to 3 days. And that's why you kind of told us, hey, give me a couple days, give me till Monday, give me whatever I think you said, like, give me 7 days or next week. Then you set it up for those times, and then you'll know where you need to be. Now, perfect world, you locked it up and you set the right expectations and you have the contract. Now, you don't, but again, you're not blasting us out to the whole world, so it's okay.
Right. Love it.
Feedback, any pretty simple, right?
It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. I like it. I think Jerry Norton has talked about one of these strategies. I think he calls it the sniper method, going right to that location.
Now that's good. I love it. Now, when you call agents, it might not always work, right? So that's why I like to add a little sauce to it with the Facebook group.
Right.
And what else did I say? Yeah, the Facebook group. Like that's good. And if you're not getting any love at that point, if you're not getting any feedback or anyone that wants to go see it, then it's the next step, right? You got to go dive a little bit deeper. The cool thing about this is very vague, right? So you're going to get interest, but the problem with like the email blast that a lot of people have is they'll send out like a property. Hey, this is 123 Johannesburg Street. They'll send it out. No one will respond, and you're stuck there with your thumbs, twiddling your thumbs, and you're like, why does nobody want this thing? Right? You don't know. So that's why I like to be vague, because eventually you get the feedback, you get to understand what's going on quickly versus you send it out, no one gives you an offer, or they just all lowball you, because that's what a lot of people do, is they're just going to straight lowball you. No one's just going to come back and lowball you in this process because they need to go see it. And if they're like, oh no, man, this is where I'd be able to, hey, that's great that you think you need to be there, but I really need you, are you going to buy it right now? If I say yes, and I signed to you right now, are you ready to go? Well, I need to go see it. Well, just go see it then. If they're like, well, I don't want to go see it unless this and this and this, and be like, okay, well, you're not that serious, because I got other buyers that are willing to go see any house, anytime, any day, because they really want a property. So, yeah.
Right.
That's it, dude.
Feel it out as you make those phone calls, see how committed they are, see if they really want to go see it, and kind of vet them that way.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, like, we want to make this juicy too, like for the seller. We want to make it as good as possible. So once you do get the offers, you can ask the cash buyer, be like, hey, you know what? We really care about the seller. We want to help them out. What else can you throw into your offer that would help them in their situation? Well, I could move them. Well, I could let them do a post possession. They start throwing out things to make their offer better. Thus, your offer is better. And you didn't have to scratch your head and think about what they could do. You asked them. So that's a good strategy too, is just asking them, like, just putting it in their court. Say, hey, what can you do? What can you do so we can make this a little bit better? Yeah, I'm just trying to rack my brain for anything else. Yeah, that's pretty much it, man. That's making it transparent and painless and easy, dude. You just got to go do it. And again, we wouldn't be in doing this unless you approached it this way, right? If you would have just gone in again and being like 435, let's do it, and she locked it up, then you could do that, but we would both be sitting here being like, oh, I kind of feel uncomfortable a little bit. I told her that we could do this.
Gonna make it.
Yeah, and she's out here, she's packing up her boxes, getting all excited that she's about to take in, $5K more, and then you got to call that nice little lady and say, hey, I'm sorry. At least, at least with this strategy, you don't you're not going to wreck or broke. I've done that, man. I've broken some hearts, and it doesn't feel good. Because even if you set expectations, you can break hearts too, bro. It's sad, but you're like, hey, I'm not sure, and you do this, and they're like, oh, I thought you. I'd be like, hey, don't you remember? Like we kind of talked about this, but sometimes you can tell people everything, and it doesn't matter. Even if people sign stuff, bro, and they don't even remember. They're like, it's like you signed an agreement, you remember, right? They're like, no, like I don't
we
remember
went
that.
over this.
That's why lawyers exist, right? Because
Yeah.
people sign stuff all the time, and they're like, nah, I didn't sign that. It's like, what are you talking about, bro? We like went over this. So anyway, I'm excited, man. Let's see how we can do it. And what's inside your heart, my heart right now is like, let's get this lady as much as we can get. We're not looking to just wreck her or get as much as possible. You're gonna feel good. I'm gonna feel good if we get this deal across the finish line. We make some money, but we also get her best option. It's gonna feel good.
Right. That's the goal. Help people out.
That's it. This is a serving. We serve people. This is what we do. We solve problems. Okay.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna start cranking it out. Go find some buyers and get them in the house and see what they have to say.
I love it, man. Now, anybody that's watching live still or watching in the future, if you like this strategy, if you like wholesaling transparently, when instead of just like throwing out crappy offers and hoping they work, check out the website traditionalwholesalingsucks.com. I just got that domain. Now, if you're still traditional wholesaling and you feel like it sucks, it's because it does. It's not the only way to do deals. There's other ways. Check it out. We got information on there, how we can help you do it. Caden, I appreciate you, man. I'm excited. Let's wrap this thing up. Let's get it done.
Appreciate it, man.
All right. Later, bro.